Hello, here I am today with Bebo Norman. Bebo, thank you very much for taking a few minutes out of your schedule here to meet with us.
Happy to be with you, man. Happy to be with you.
I have a rare opportunity where Bebo, along with the Jars of Clay, have played or presented or had a concert here at our church, Cross Point Church, and had a very great opportunity to sit down with Bebo for a second and to hear a story. And Bebo, there was something that you said as you introduced yourself out there about just about your journey through this whole thing, and it really related to what we were doing at 123Smarket because you were getting ready to go to medical school when you had this pivotal moment in your life, where all of a sudden you had the decision to go to school or to become a musician. So if you could tell us a little bit about that.
Awesome. Well, no, it was a pretty definitely. I mean, there have been a handful of those kind of moments in my life where they've been, direction changers for me, and that was one of them. I was studying in college, in pre-med, got a degree in biology, and so I was probably just a few months away from graduating, and just couldn't get out of my mind I wrote songs, by the way, along the way. I started writing songs in college and played them primarily just for the folks that knew me, folks that were friends, and they said nice things, but your friends are always going to say nice things. And so all that to say, these same friends, a few people in my life really started encouraging me to explore this whole thing with music, that they felt like there might be something more to it in terms of maybe where I'm gifted or maybe something that I might be maybe more drawn to or gifted in than I give myself credit for, if that makes any sense.
I think we're all in that mode.
And primarily because I loved I loved biology, I loved what I was studying, I loved the idea of practicing medicine. I loved the idea of that in a lot of ways because I loved the idea of the control of it, not controlling other people's lives, but that I could make a plan and follow that plan and sort of map my life out. And for me, that was a great deal of security and comfort in that. And yet at the same time, now looking back in hindsight, it's kind of clear to see that my need to have security and comfort, and at least on the front end, very nearly took me in a direction that would have robbed me of the life that I've lived for the past 15 years that has been an absolute dream to get to do. You know what I mean? And so it's really interesting, and that's kind of where I was coming from. So I literally, 2 months before I graduated from college, decided that I would, instead of trying to apply for medical school right away, I was going to take a year off and at least pursue this music thing for a year, give it a year, and then start applying for medical school. And that year has turned into 14 years now.
Wow. So, were you criticized pretty harshly for your decisions at that time?
I wasn't criticized, but I was definitely, I got a lot of funny looks, not so much critical looks, but like for real. But I will say this, I had people in my life that really, relationships in my life have always been a very key thing, and they have helped to direct me in pretty dramatic ways in terms of me asking that question to myself, am I crazy to think this? I've had relationships in my life, people in my life that have been willing to come to me and say, yes or no, you're not. And in the case of music, I had so many of the people that I really trusted, as I bounced things off of them, continue to reaffirm this idea that no, you're not crazy to at least see what would happen with this. And so my father being one of those, and oddly enough, he had paid for my college. So here I am with a degree in biology that is doing me so much good at this point in my life. But my father was finishing school, and he was the first person to be a champion of it and say, listen, if this is what you love, I want you to go pursue it. He had always said as a kid, and this will sound random, but he used to always tell us when my father was a kid, he used to want to be a garbage man because he loved the idea of riding on the back of the trucks while they threw the trash on. And so he used to always joke with us and say, hey, listen, if you want to be a garbage man, be a garbage man. If that's the thing that you love, if that's the thing that finds you passion, or gives you passion, or you find passion in. And he told me, relating it in my world, I was very much into kayaking and backpacking and things like that in college. And he said, man, if you want to go be a whitewater rafting guide, go do it. But you need to weigh out what the other things that you want out of life. Weigh what those things are. If you want to be a whitewater rafting guide, that's great, but that may take you in a certain direction that doesn't necessarily let you have a family or kids and those
Sure.
kind of things. And so weigh those things out, balance those things out, and move forward. And that's how he was with music. He just
Well,
he was,
you're very fortunate that you had a
Yeah, absolutely.
a good support system, especially your parents that
totally
way.
just very practically
Yeah.
pointed me in certain
So,
directions.
so you know what I've seen out there, and I am a perfect example of this, is that we all have certain fears.
Oh, no question.
Okay, and you know, we try to open up our heart to the Lord and to say, you know, guide me, point me in the right direction. You know,
Right.
a lot of times, you know, we go down paths for our own desires, our own decisions,
Right.
but you know, deep down, I think we're all on this path saying, you know, I'm looking for gratification in what I do,
Right.
and if I can make a living and support my family and put
Right.
food on the table.
Right.
By following those passions, that's a wonderful thing. But you know, I've heard it argued both ways. There's a lot of people that say, you know, I have a passion over here. I like working on cars, but you know, if I followed that, then it's no longer going to be a passion because it becomes work.
Right. Right.
Yeah,
right.
you know, so there's a fine line there.
Very
And-
fine line.
but we all have to overcome those fears and just do it.
Yep.
Right?
I think
And-
you're right. I think that was primarily the driving force behind that decision I made coming out of college, to start playing. What does even playing music mean? You know, there were some practical steps that I took, but that was what it was for me. It was pushing myself past that initial fear, and recognizing that not all of that fear was just going to go away just because I made the decision to say, okay, I'm going forward with this. But a lot of what helped resolve that fear for me was getting practical about what I was going to do. Okay, break it down and get simple and go, okay, here's my fear. This is what I want to do. This is what I feel passionate about, but I'm scared to death because I don't know how to do it. What are the practical steps that I can take to go forward and move forward in doing that? And so that's how, oddly enough, and maybe that's the scientific part of my brain that wanted to break down a very ambiguous career choice and make it a little bit more practical. And that's what happened for me. And man, it just kind of took off.
When
on
you
its
say
own.
you went about breaking it down to make it more practical, I think that, you know, we all have this vision out there that says, you know, in your case, a musician, okay,
Right.
here I'm on the stage in front of,
Right.
you know, 10,000 people, and everybody's, you know,
Right, cheering and
cheering me on.
whatever,
So that's like, you know, surreal, right? And but to stand out, have that vision is good,
Right.
but to break it down and be practical, how do you even get started and start moving
Right.
towards that vision?
Well, the practicality for me was that in all honesty, I had, my father's a businessman, so he thought like a businessman, and he just said, okay, if this is what you're called to do, this is what you feel compelled to do, you need to be able to put food on the table on some level in order to do it. Maybe that's taking a job and trying to do it on the weekends, whatever. Those were the thoughts. But where we landed is practically I took out a loan from the bank for $15,000
Okay.
to make my first little independent record.
Okay.
And I recorded an independent record, and that was all in, printed, recorded, produced, the whole nine, $15,000, and I had 1,000 CDs
Okay.
shipped to my house, you know.
Okay.
And